Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel, and it's time for my end-of-year best of. I actually haven't done one the last few years, and I got a lot of crap from everybody about it. And what it really comes down to is I'm usually so far behind in listening to music. I buy quite a bit of stuff, and I mean, there's albums that I've bought from 2008 that I still haven't gotten to yet, like the Impellitteri I've got, haven't got to. There's quite a few that are in my inbox I just haven't gotten to yet, but I wanted to show the best of what I have listened to. Again, the last 2 or 3 years I haven't done a list, so this year I did want to. So let's just kind of jump in. So number 11 is going to be Black Label Society. Grimmest Hits. I haven't really heard any people talk about this, but you know, just another really solid album from Zakk Wylde that I just kept coming back to. I really dug it. I don't have it here in front of me, but the copy, I pre-ordered it from him directly, and it came with a signed booklet. But so number 11, just another solid piece of metal from Zakk Wylde. And in the background, I really expected this to make my top 10. This one just wasn't as good as their last album, but it's still really solid. It would probably be in my top 20 of the year, but and it's one I've definitely listened to a lot. But this is Riot 5, Armor of Light. Still just really killer U.S. power metal. Again, their last album was in my top 3 of the year a couple years ago when it came out. Actually, whatever year that came out, I think it was 2016. It may have been 15. That was the last year that I did a best of the year. So, and by the way, this is just hard rock and heavy metal. There are some albums that I contemplated putting in here, like the new Perfect Circle album, but it just didn't fall into that hard rock category, so I left it off. But number 10, another one I haven't really heard anybody talk about, but just a really solid album, is Used Future from The Sword. I haven't found this one on vinyl yet, but one I definitely recommend picking up, especially for you guys. I know a lot of you are really into the 70s hard rock sound. You know, a lot of people have turned away from The Sword because they've gone the more 70s hard rock sound, and it's not as much the stoner metal that they were known for early on. There's still a lot of stoner metal here, but they have gone more towards that 70s sound, which I personally really like. I like their early stuff too, but they did a killer job on this album. And again, highly recommend checking that one out if you're a fan of The Sword. So that was number 10. Number 9, this is one I talked about earlier in the year. My feelings still hold true. There are no standout tracks, and as a whole, a lot of this album sounds the same as their last 2 albums, but that doesn't take away from how good this album is and how much I've listened to it. So this is Rainier Fog from Alice in Chains, and this has gotten quite a few spins. Again, the one critique I have is you can't really tell the difference between William and Jerry Cantrell. You know, they harmonize the entire album, so it's really Jerry Cantrell. It sounds more like a solo album than an Alice in Chains album, which I'm cool with that too. I'm a big fan of Jerry Cantrell as well. So Rainier Fog. I believe we're in 8. Number 8, this one came out towards the end of the year. I didn't initially like this on the first spin, but by the 3rd or 4th spin, I was really getting into it. And with each listen, I've liked it more and more. The packaging on this is killer. This is Metal Church. Damned If You Do. I like everything about this. They did the little Obi strip on there, or the Obi on there. It came with a little 12-inch poster. I love the throwback to their debut album here. And I mean, this thing was just kind of loaded up. There's the insert again. Throwback to that original album. And the vinyl looks really, really killer. I love how nice that vinyl came out. And I didn't just order the LP. I also ordered the CD. Hang on, I think there was another insert in here. Let me look. Yeah, it also came with this book, and it's a limited numbered edition. That was the sticker, the hype sticker from the front of it, and they're all numbered. This is number 474. I can't remember how many there were, but it also came with this booklet that has the lyrics in English and Japanese. Really killer shot of the band. I love everything about the packaging. I love the album. Definitely a throwback to their heyday. It would definitely, I think Scott said that it would fit right in line. Had they released this as their 4th album, it would have been the perfect fit, and I totally agree with that. And again, I highly recommend picking this up. It's limited edition, or it's limited, and they're selling out fast. Try to get this back together. Sorry. And they did it at 45 RPM too, which is also really cool. But Rat Pack has just been doing a great job with all of their releases. I really like the label, and I've bought most of what they've put out since I found out about them. I also bought the deluxe edition of the CD that's signed by the entire band, and then it came with a little CD insert there, the Rat Pack sticker, Metal Church sticker, and then a guitar pick as well. So very, very cool. Again, go to ratpack.com or Rat Pack Records and definitely grab that while you still can. It may already be sold out. I'm not even 100% sure. So next up we got number 7, and that would be Primal from No Life Till Metal Records. It took me a few spins to get into this because the vocalist has a little bit different sound. I talked about this before, but once I got past that, I really got into this album. And I've played this pretty much non-stop this year, and this came out early in the year too. I've been loving this. If you guys haven't picked this up, I highly recommend picking it up. If I remember, I'll put a link down below where you guys can get this one. Next up, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't even know what number we're on now. 1, 4, 5, 6. So this is number 6. We've got Goddamn Evil from Stryper. Stryper has just been doing a killer job. Their last 3 albums, and then Michael Sweet's solo album, which is basically another Stryper album, are some of the best stuff they've released. Michael Sweet still sounds amazing. The band has just been on point. Other than the chorus and Take It to the Cross, this is a perfect album. I love everything about it, and even the Take It to the Cross. He just gets kind of screechy during the chorus, and I guess he was going for this kind of thrash sound, and it just comes off a little bit weird. But other than that, literally, this is a perfect album. This is the gold pressing. I can't remember if there were 50 or 100 of these, but this was limited to Pledge Music, a Pledge Music pre-order, and man, they're going for crazy money now. They're going for like $100, $110. Stryper fans are just fanatics. It's insane how much the Stryper records go for. But I think I paid $25 for it, you know. But really killer out, beginning to end. This is just a great, great, great album. And I was mentioning to somebody, I don't remember who, it got kind of a raw sound to it. It's not super produced like their last couple, which I don't mind, but this one's just got a rawness to it that to the production that I really like. Killer album though. Number 5. This is one I've talked about quite a bit this year. This is definitely one of the most played albums of the year. I actually thought this would be higher on my list, but some other stuff has popped up that just kind of took me by surprise. And this is Void, The Outer Ocean. Or VOJD, I don't know. From what I understand, it's Void, though. Void is basically 3 of the guys from Black Trip. And so basically one of the guys, I believe it was the drummer, left Black Trip. And the material that was going to be Black Trip basically became The Outer Ocean for Void. It's a little different sound than Black Trip, so it kind of makes sense that they changed the name. They brought in a new drummer and another guitarist. And the writing is better than anything that they've ever written. And they're kind of getting their own sound. There's still a little bit of that Thin Lizzy sound here, but you're starting to hear something different, something that doesn't sound like other bands. What's really cool about this, too, is they've gone more towards the 70s, where the Black Trip albums were more new wave of British heavy metal-y with a little bit of Thin Lizzy thrown in. This has gone more towards the 70s. They've gotten away from the distortion and gone more to an overdrive sound, and it's phenomenal. Highly recommend checking these guys out. Void, number 5. Number 4, these guys have been getting a lot of hype all over the world, and for good reason. I just don't agree with some of what's being said about them. But number 4 for me is Anthem of a Peaceful Army from Greta Van Fleet. I understand the Led Zeppelin comparison, but what throws me off is everybody says how the singer sounds. I can never remember if it's Page or Plant. I always get the two mixed up. But everybody says he sounds like the vocalist from Led Zeppelin, and he really doesn't. He actually sounds like Shannon Hoon, in all the right ways, though. I was not a Blind Melon fan. The best thing about Blind Melon was Shannon Hoon's vocals. If you haven't heard Blind Melon, or you're not familiar with who Shannon Hoon is, just pull up one of the Blind Melon tracks. He does go into like this raspy high that's reminiscent of Led Zeppelin. But there's a lot of like I said, the vocals sound more like Shannon Hoon. And I hear some Black Crowes too, which kind of makes sense because a lot of people compared Black Crowes to Led Zeppelin as well. With this album, they're definitely kind of coming into their own, and it's just a phenomenal listen from beginning to end. I've loved everything that they've released so far. People can say they sound like this, they sound like that. It doesn't matter. The music is really good. The writing is really good. The vocals are top notch. And it's just a really solid album from a really good band. And hopefully they keep going in this direction, and they keep finding their own, and don't go towards one of these other bands that people are comparing them to. But Greta Van Fleet, number 4. Number 3. Number 3 is another new wave of traditional metal band that are just killing it. These guys are so good. I actually thought Void would be higher up on the list, and these guys kind of took their spot. But this is another one that I've been listening to nonstop. But this is Conquerors Oath from Visigoth. Just such a killer band. I've really been digging this and playing this one nonstop. And this one came on this clear vinyl with blue and white marbling, I guess you would call it. Another one I highly recommend picking up. Great move by Metal Blade picking these guys up. And then in the background, no, I already went over that. Ride 5 in the background. Number 2. This one I actually just got about a month ago, and it has not left my CD player. I love this band. Everybody I've turned on to this band loves this band. They're really hard to compare, but they definitely have that early 70s. I would say Jethro Tull mixed with Wishbone Ash, mixed with, oh man, there's a little bit of Doomy Sabbath in here. Uriah Heep. I mean, everything I love about the 70s, this band embodies. Their first album came out in, I believe, 83. And here is a little pin with for that album. And this is has become probably one of my top 20 all-time albums. I play this thing non-stop. I found out in late November that this album had come out. I completely missed it. I wasn't able to find it on vinyl. I'm still looking though. But man, this album is so good. The guitar is absolutely top notch. Highly recommend checking this one out. But this is Eye of the Stygian Witches by Ashbury. And it's really cool to see them get revived, because you know their 83 albums have always been a cult classic, and originals go for like $600-700, and it got reissued a couple of years ago by Rockadrome, or one of their offshoots, and it really brought them back into the spotlight. And then about that same time, this one was released. High Roller Records actually did a pressing of their second album, which I also just recently found. And then this is their 2018 release. But man, this album is so good. Definitely a must-have for any of you guys that like 70s hard rock. And last but not least, actually before we go there, there's a lot of stuff I missed. And there's a lot of stuff that I was really excited for that I just didn't like. The new Sleep album. Everybody, I wasn't a huge fan of Dope Smoker, but I understand how good it was for the time it came out, you know. And I was expecting something better with their new album. A lot of people have put it at the top of their list. It just doesn't do it for me. I've given it 3 or 4 spins, and it's just, I just don't think it's that good. It sounds exactly like their first album without taking any steps. And I just think that there's better bands out there doing what they do. What else did I miss? Voivod, I haven't listened to yet. I've tried to find it and just haven't run across a copy. Like I said, the Impellitteri I haven't spun yet. I do have it on vinyl. The Accuser, I completely missed out on. And the silly thing about that is I found out that the Accuser was coming out the end of last year. I saw the pre-order for it, and I actually sent a link to Scott Waters, and he ordered it, and I meant to order it at the same time, and I totally forgot about it. Brainstorm, Bloodbound, there's new Malaya Rage that came out. There's just so much that came out this year that I didn't check out. Haunt made the top of a lot of people's lists. I do have the Haunt album, and I've given it spins. I do like it. It just didn't make my top 10. Peacemaker, I would have sworn when it came out would have made my top 10, but it just kept getting edged out. I do like it. The singer is one of the former, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he's one of the former singers from Metal Church. I really dug it, but it just got edged out. Let's see what else. Saxon. Everybody listed Saxon, but Saxon came out in 2017. So I was surprised to see it on the top of so many people's lists. Old Wolf is another one that I'm really looking forward to, but I haven't grabbed yet. I mean, there's just so much that I haven't got to yet. But number 1 was really an easy one for me, and it's the same number 1 that a lot of people have had. But it's Firepower from Judas Priest. And this is the Pledge Music Edition. I really like the way Pledge Music did this one, or the way Priest did this one. It's the signed edition. So here is the signed pressing, which will be on my wall very shortly. It'll probably go right there. Oh, as much as I love that album, it's just, those are all favorites of mine, and this just needs to go up there. Regardless, I like that they gave us 2 jackets. They gave us a signed jacket, and then the album was in its own jacket, which is very cool. Most bands don't do that. And it came on this, you got the yellow marbled and the red marbled. This album has been a surprise to me for a lot of reasons. I was shocked how many music outlets didn't list this in their top 10. Not even in, you know, or even I've seen a lot of major music outlets that didn't even list it in their top 20, and which is ridiculous. I've heard some of the comments I've heard about this album from the major music outlets have been insane. I heard one outlet talk about the song Firepower was really good, but the rest of the album was pedestrian, which is ridiculous. It shows me that they didn't really listen to the album, because I think Firepower is actually one of the weaker songs on the album. Just the comments that I've heard. I heard one outlet say that it's good for Judas Priest, but for metal as a whole, it's not that good. And I understand a lot of the music outlets right now are all about extreme metal. You know, I mean, they pretty much ignore the new wave of traditional metal, which is ridiculous. But this album is just so good. If you haven't really sat down and listened to it, and I was guilty of this myself. When I first got it, I listened to it, I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And then it sat in my car for like 2 months. And then I just decided to put it back in one day. And it literally sat in my car for about 3 months, and I just listened to it over and over. This is the first album in years where I can sing this entire album word for word along with the music. And this is some of the best writing by far. Everybody's saying this is the best album since Painkiller. This album is better. I may like the song Painkiller better than most of the tracks on here, but song for song, this album blows the Painkiller album out of the water. This is the best album that they've released since the early 80s. I mean, every track on here is absolutely amazing. Necromancer, Children of the Sun, Rising from Ruins is phenomenal. The Spectre, Traitor's Gate, Sea of Red. You notice I'm not saying Firepower and Lightning Strike. I like both of those albums. I think all the other albums, all the other songs that I just named are better than those two, and I like those 2 songs as well. I also saw Judas Priest when they came through in October, and man, they were amazing. Richie definitely put some new fire into the band. He had a big part in writing for this album. His riffs remind me of riffs from the early 80s, the late 70s. I mean, I really do love everything about this album, and I can't speak more highly of how good this album is. This really was an easy #1 for me, and this is probably my favorite album of the last few years. It just really is that good. And again, if you haven't really sat down and just listened to it, you know, give it a few spins and let it sink in. And listen beyond just the periphery listen of Firepower and Lightning Strike. Like I said, Necromancer, Children of the Sun, Rising from Ruins, Guardians, Spectre, Traitor's Gate. They're all phenomenal songs. But yeah. So that is my top 11 of 2018. Tell me what you guys think. Tell me what you guys think I missed. If there's any albums that I didn't mention that I haven't heard yet, definitely put those down there too, stuff to check out. And seeing as these guys are my favorite of the year, and I didn't do a review of their concert, which is something I usually do, I'm going to go ahead and end this video with with some videos of the show where I saw them. So take care, VC, and I'll see you soon. Fire, let's take my hands,
battle. We can settle our own stars, our own stars. Into the skies and challenge all.